September 15th, 2019, I flew from Brooklyn, New York to Salt Lake City, Utah to meet with drummer Andy Patterson. It was the end of a crazy and tumultuous year, and we were about to get started on a very ambitious plan, preparing to record a new album and simultaneously preparing for a big tour. Under normal circumstances, this would take months, but both were happening in the coming 8 weeks. The clincher was that Andy had joined the band just a few weeks prior, and in fact, we had known each other for roughly 1 month.
We spent about 2 days playing in New York, just getting to know each other, making sure that, neither of us are creeps. The prospect of just immediately going from tour to making a record was super exciting for me.
Our schedule had been fixed in place 1 full year in advance. It was a complicated web of coordinated events between the creation and release of the album and other work. I was set to join Swans for touring throughout 2020, and Andy had other recording sessions and tours booked. Our short window of time was locked in place, and staying on track would demand a whirlwind of focused activity. On the industrial outskirts of Salt Lake City, we set up for rehearsals at Andy's legendary recording studio, The Boar's Nest.
Practicing at The Boar's Nest, we had the luxury of having a full functioning studio to work out ideas, record things.
Working there was a big factor in our fruitful creative work and allowed us to get to know each other better as musicians and friends who were about to embark on a huge journey. Live and studio demand different approaches for Insect Arc. There's a ton of woodshedding to figure out complex live looping and switching instruments. Though I'd mostly finished writing before I arrived, there were drum parts to write, there were layering up of synths, there were harmonies to compose. We rehearsed for 8 hours a day, 6 days a week for 3 weeks, which was a trick that I learned back from my days in Angels of Light. We dug in deep, and at the end, the music had transformed into something alive and breathing. After a small private gig for a few friends, the music was ready to be road tested on tour across North America with Finland's Oranssi Pazuzu. The 16-date tour wove a path throughout the US and Canada. Night by night, the songs really started coming together.
The best possible scenario for a band is to go on tour and then record the record directly after the tour.
The tour was an experience to remember, complete with epic sightseeing stops and brutal drives. Oranssi Pazuzu had never toured the US, and it was our honor to be part of this occasion. The bus was a home to the band's and crew, 11 people, for 3 weeks. 4 days after the tour ended in Seattle, Washington, Andy and I flew back to New York City to record with Colin Marston at Menegroth Studios.
I was super excited about working with him. Crazy talented and has recorded a lot of amazing records. He and I work very similarly, but there's a bunch of tips and tricks that I picked up from watching him work.
The songs had that raw energy that you only get from playing on tour every night. All of our preparation paid off. We nailed our basics in 5 days, added a week of overdubs in my Brooklyn home studio, and then we began the final mix. Colin was totally on board and enthusiastic. He was a great pleasure to work with. After just 3 weeks in the studio, the Vanishing was complete.
It was a cool experience to be able to have it happen in such a condensed amount of time. We were really locked in, and we set out to meet that goal and met it.
The artwork and layout were finalized with the painting by Sonia, Merah, and the whole package was sent off to press. Everything had amazingly worked out exactly as planned. February 28th, 2020, The Vanishing was released on Profound Lore Records. Our record release show at St. Vitus, New York City turned out to be our only US show in 2020. We left 2 days later for Europe, with the COVID crisis already mounting into a serious threat. We managed to play Athens, Brussels, and 3 shows in the United Kingdom before COVID-19 hit Europe like a wildfire, shutting everything down. Driving from the UK to Berlin overnight, we arrived just before the German border closed. March 13th, 2 weeks from the date the album came out, and the album cycle for The Vanishing was abruptly over. The rest is recent history. Despite everything, The Vanishing managed to find a way into people's lives. We thank each person who listened and took a part somehow. The absence of making and sharing music is a testimony to how lucky we've been all this time.
Joining the band was a really great experience, and mostly just meeting Dana and getting to know her. She became instantly a lifelong friend, and we can't wait for the next chapter.
Living as an artist is a privilege, with the good fortune of choice to pursue our dreams. Our story is just one of multitudes, each of us facing an existence that is very uncertain. Culture, art, and music will flourish again, even though we can't know what it'll look like on the other side. Thank you for listening.